toxic people are never tolerated. So, whatever their work results, whatever their performance, so that is something that, negative impact on the team. So I always, in all my team, I worked with, we have, very, it's not we are the best friends or family, but we're having this, atmosphere of trust, of, support. So there is no judgment, no point fingers pointing or blaming. So obviously we are if somebody did some mistake, we look at it. We are just understanding how it could happen, how we can avoid it in the future. But if there is some problem, we are fixing it all together. So I never had this issue. So if somebody is toxic, whatever they perform, and if they are impacting other people, so they just they go, so they don't stay in the company. So I have more problems with nice, who are if people are nice but they're not performing. So then that is much harder for me.
Hello, welcome, and Happy New Year, because this is the first episode of 2026. Thanks for joining us again. And today we're kicking off the year with my next guest, Tanya Kobzar, who is a founder, an entrepreneur, a technologist. We'll be talking about all of Tanya's experiences working her way up from software developer to entrepreneur to CEO, founder of her own business. All of the lessons she's learned about technology and leadership along the way. And we'll dig into things like agile methodologies, human-centered design, what it really means to put your people first, and to manage and balance the oft competing priorities of technology, business, people. And if you're listening to the show today because you want to get deeper into that real human people side of leadership, then come along and hang out with us at the Integrity Leaders online leadership community. It's built for people just like you, podcast listeners, first-time leaders, struggling managers. You can find more information at leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. And if you would like to sign up, there's a big green button on that homepage. So click on that button. It will take you to the community sign-up page. There's a video of me. There's a bit more information about the community and what it involves and what you get out of it. And at the bottom there, you can choose your membership tier. And if you have any questions, as always, my LinkedIn details are in the show notes. So reach out, drop me a message. Always happy to chat.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Tanya, welcome to Leading with Integrity. It's lovely to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for having me, David.
Tell us a bit about your career so far, what you do today, why you do it, how you got there.
Oh, so I started as a developer. So I've got a computer science degree. I worked as a developer for some time. Then I switched more to the product side and became product manager. I participated in a couple of startups, founded one, didn't succeed, that founded another company, in which I was helping the startups to grow and build their software. Now I'm building my own startup again. So different roles, different hats I was wearing. So I realized after founding the company and being the solo entrepreneur that being able to do a good software is not enough to build a successful business. You need to learn sales, you need to learn marketing, you need to learn human resource part and all the other things, all the other aspects of building the business.
So what drew you to software and development originally? How did you catch the bug, as it were?
I loved playing games.
Nice. Yeah.
My father, he was a developer, like the old school one. In his early years, he was doing this, the special cards with the huge machine rooms where they did some simple calculations. And I always was fascinated with all the technology and other stuff. I came to his work, and I think that's how the interest to technology started. And so then when it was time to choose the university, that was a natural choice to go to the computer science. And then it was like, more or less natural flow.
So computer science rather than video game design then.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking that probably, I would do a couple of more educations. I'm thinking of getting the second one in some more behavioral design, psychology, and other things, because that's like part of my work that I do a lot. I apply behavioral science, gamification to like everywhere I can, because I believe that that's like motivation is a very important aspect of user experience. So that's why I'm thinking of like taking the second education in this field.
Yeah, interesting. It's I think that's much more interesting, and I think has more like potential for the future. I don't know. I mean, as a layman anyway, than like this whole AI thing. I feel like AI is a bubble right now. I don't know. It feels like it's being forced on us. Everyone's putting AI in things when we haven't asked for it.
True. But I think it's a tool that anyway, good to have. Probably don't need it as much and like everywhere as it's trying to be now, but I think it will settle. So it will remain the same. We had these booms like before, that was blockchain and this type of technology. So it was like huge. Then it just collapsed a little bit, and it stays on its natural level where demand and supply meet. Before it was VR. I remember VR, AR. So that was like a huge thing. But now it's again, it has its use in some areas, but probably not everywhere. It is as it was before.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when 3D TVs were all the rage, and I think they lasted about 2 years, and nobody has one anymore. It's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny old world with the technology, isn't it? Funny old world. Yeah. So I think this probably leads us into one of the things that you focus on a lot, and your approach to design, which is, I think you call it human-centered. So I'd love to hear a bit like what does that mean? How does it work? Why does it matter?
So the human-centered design is named to oppose the functionality-centered design, because it's both like different approaches to user experience, to UX design. But first, if it's functionality centered, it's more about the easiest, the most clear, the most smooth way to get from point A to point B. So to lead user to the desired action. So to make it as easy as possible for user. And human-centered design, it's more about to make this experience so to make user want to do this action, because it can be easy to do, but user is still not doing it. So human-centered design, it could be probably more steps, but better explained why you need to do it. So because from the UX usability perspective, just put the call to action button on the screen and just and have no other options to user just to press it. I'm obviously I'm exaggerating, but the idea is, and for the human-centered, you're motivating them to do the action. So that's the biggest difference. Of course, it should be easy. It should be clear. Users should not be confused, because that would demotivate them. But I mean that the user's motivation is the main question we are asking us when we are building the interface and the user flows.
And so how does that sit? Because I mean, I'm certainly not a developer myself. I've worked with a few over the years, and so I've heard the terminology. You know, been around the whole Scrum Agile wheel a few times as well. How is that different from, say, let's call it the traditional Agile approach, where it's all about like the user needs, mapping features and technical specifications to that? Is it a question of emphasis, or is there a more fundamental like philosophy behind it?
Yeah, it's more like a philosophy. So it doesn't contradict or like, so because agile, it's more about the way how you develop your application or your product, rather than what do you do inside. I mean, agile is more like the opposition to the previously used waterfall, when you're just, you're having each stage complete before moving to the next one, like, design, then development, then testing. And again, it was um, very reasonable before, because even like I remember in my first jobs, we had like, when it's release, it means that, the actual CD ROMs, they went to the factory and they're being printed on. So you don't have like, you cannot send the update or like, some quick fix or something and just update the production next day. No, it's like, if it's released, it's released, and the version 2 is going to be next year, where you can address all the other things. So, and agile is more like, like in a very, very simple terms, in a nutshell. So it gives you the opportunity to have the smaller iteration and like improve over time, and like, deliver baby steps your product and bring it to the final stage. And probably during this way, your product will pivot at some moment, because you see that, this doesn't work well, and you go to some other direction. But it doesn't like it doesn't dictate you what approach you should use in your like design or development or other things. So that's like, more or less a parallel concepts that are, so you can do agile and user centered, you can do agile and functionality centered. So no you can do it.
Okay, fair enough. And we got into a bit of the history of software there as well, which is interesting. I think a lot of listeners will be like, CD-ROM, what's that? They used to like print them on these physical discs, and then you would order it and it would arrive and you had to put it in the computer. And yeah, I remember, going back
feel
to...
so old now.
Yeah, well, me too. But I remember VHS as well, and like Commodore 64, and oh man. Yeah, I remember going back to the video game side of it again. There was a brief crossover as well, wasn't there, where you got the CD, the physical media, and then you still had to wait like 5-6 hours at internet speeds those days for the update before you could use the thing, which was like the worst of both worlds.
I remember.
Yeah.
True. I remember this experience with World of Warcraft. So when I that was, I know, 6 discs or something. So you just like put in them one by one, and then you are still waiting for the download. Yeah.
And back in the days of like the 56K modem as well. Yeah. At least they kept the file sizes smaller back then, though, because they had to, or you'd never be able to use it. Anyway. It's an interesting shift in like the software industry, though, isn't it? Like this whole move, and it's not just the physical media; it's the move away from like you buy it once and it's yours forever. This whole subscription model, and I can see how it makes sense for certain tools, certain areas. When it comes to things like your basic office software, for example, do I really want to be paying for that every month as a user? What are your thoughts on that and the way the market's going? Is it good or bad, do you think?
For me as a user, I don't like it. But for the companies, that's the way to go. That's what everyone is doing now. And even there is like a very, let's say, pragmatic and not very like I think that it's not very ethical approach that I see, but anyway, so that's like like people in the user acquisition industry. They're saying that, you know, you need to like onboard user, you need to move them through paywall, and then just make them subscribe, and just then you can let them go. They will forget about this subscription. So that's like, you know, you need to do it to grow the revenue. And so like in my early years, as I mentioned, I was a part of the startup that was a game development, and we were like, you know, first just, you know, we were selling the game and that's it. So no subscription, no in-app purchases, nothing. And that actually like very hard. You need to put a lot of effort, a lot of money to bring new users. And at some moment, you know, so the cost of new user acquisition is getting more or less to the same level that they are paying for the game. And like, because keeping the existing users are easier, because this like step of like, you know, becoming a new customer is the most complicated for the company to bring them in, to onboard them, to make them their customer. So after that, you know, keeping them in the system is easier. You convince them, and just now you need to deliver what you promised when you were selling it. And if you're not doing it, it's like very hard to survive. So I think that everybody is going to switch to subscription eventually. So that's why I love AppSumo website. It's like where startups, they are just selling, no advertisement. I mean, just a recommendation. So some startups, they do like when they launch in their beta version, or they want to have this like initial user base for like, you know, do their internal test. So when they're early on the market, so they are selling their lifetime subscription for pretty reasonable amount. Then they are charging monthly other users. But if you are like, you know, if you bought this deal on AppSumo, you can use it for forever. So there is like, you know, you are risking a little bit, because probably the startup will not continue, will close eventually. But if it's like a good one, so I use several products that saves me, like, I don't know, I think that couple of thousand or a couple of hundreds per month for sure on subscriptions on like different software.
Yeah, absolutely. No, me too. I'm a massive fan of AppSumo as well. In fact, we used one of the things I bought on AppSumo in order to organize this conversation. So, and that, yeah, I mean, that was a one-off price. It will never cost me anything again. And it replaced something that I was paying, I think, $29 a month for, which I would have had to keep doing for as long as I wanted to use it. So, I mean, the economics of it certainly makes sense. That said, I have been stung a couple of times with it as well. There was one I won't name it because I don't want to name and shame them, but I got it in an AppSumo deal. It was great. Like, I was really enjoying it. It did everything I needed it to do. It was miles ahead of the competition. And then the company went out of business and they shut down, and you don't get a refund. And yet you can't use the tool anymore. So that, you know, that is the risk you take, as you say.
But you know, the higher risk, the higher return.
Well, yeah, that's it. And I think it is probably worth the risk, to be honest. The amount of money you save compared to if you had to subscribe to it, it probably is worth it. And like I say, that's only happened once. And I've bought, probably at least half a dozen things from AppSumo now. So maybe more than that. I've lost track. That's bad business, isn't it? Anyway. I do find the whole human-centric design thing really interesting, but we probably should move on to other questions, shouldn't we? We could spend another 20 minutes talking about that. So you work with a lot of startups as well as doing your own.
Yes.
And there is that kind of, I guess one of the common tensions in startups, particularly when they're tech startups, is between like the technology and the cool thing, the great idea that we've got, and then actually making that viable as a business. So how do you bridge that gap between the technology and the business and make both work for a startup?
Yeah, I think that's how my technical background helps me a lot, because I think that I can speak both languages, developers and business. And so that's like, two goals is to first bring founders a bit to the ground to become more realistic, because especially first-time founders, they are very enthusiastic, and that's a good thing. I mean, they have a lot of wonderful ideas, and when we are building the MVP, we need to bring it down. We need to choose one idea, one functionality that is the most important. Then that is going to be our core one at the first release, and maybe several months after release, and then we can add new features slowly, and just bring them to very concrete, and also get very concrete requirements, very specific ones. So we are just doing this and this, we have this data, we get it from there, and so that is a task when working with founders, to just get the requirements in realistic and very specific terms. And from the developers perspective, it's to make them explain better what is happening, because sometimes they are taking the requirements very literally, okay, so we need to do this, we are doing this, whatever time it takes. But maybe if it's too complicated, and you can see some, I don't know, workaround, or let's change this requirement a little bit, and it will save us, I don't know, a week of work, because we will not do this very complex integration. So that's for the developers. And sometimes they are when especially speaking with founders, so they're so enthusiastic, so energetic, and developers, okay, well, yes, we'll do it. So and founders feel okay, you don't believe in the product, you don't like it, or what? But no, developers just sometimes their emotions are somewhere inside, and they do not express them so obviously. So that's when we are talking about the team collaboration, let's say, between development, delivery, and the founder and product part. And for the business, so that's also very important. And I am trying to convince founders I work with to think about user acquisition as soon as possible, because that's another mistake that I see a lot in especially in first-time founders. So they are thinking a lot about how to build this perfect product, and not that much about where they plan to get the users from. Because from my experience, getting new users cost not less than you need for the developers, for the development, probably even more, because the proper market strategy, promotion, advertisement, and other things. So you need either know where you get them. So some of our people who I've been working with, they had a huge user base, they had some subscriptions in Instagram or somewhere. So they have those audience that they're can easy access and promote them their product. That's one thing. But if you have just an idea, you need to think of the ways how you're going to bring users in.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's interesting. I mean, I've worked with founders, and I've seen others on kind of both ends of this spectrum. There's some who they just get totally fixated on the idea and the product and what they think it should look like, and they forget that they're not the ones who are going to buy it. And so you're so right. Get those users in as early as possible, because it's not about selling to them even necessarily at that stage, is it? It's about their input into the product, because you want people who would potentially actually buy it and use it to tell you what it should look like. And we're back to agile again, aren't we now? But and it's so easily overlooked, and that, I think that's the risk. A lot of particularly solopreneurs, really early stage founders. I mean, I've done it myself. You have this cool thing. That'd be amazing if we could do that. It's going to do all of these things and tick all of these boxes. And it's so easy to get caught up in that excitement and forget, but actually who's going to buy it? Maybe talk to them. And then I've also seen at the other end, founders who weren't necessarily the technical or even the product champion. They just maybe saw a business opportunity. And then they hit that wall of people with actual technical, practical knowledge who know that these are the things we need to do to achieve this. And there's a big tension there as well, because they're like, look, I just want to make money from this. Can we just make it work? And then the specialists are saying, well, yes, but, or no, and, or whatever, you know?
True. True story.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a funny one. I think it speaks to the leadership aspects of this as well, because I think, you know, we talked about technology versus business, but there's the same tension, technology versus leadership as well, isn't there? Where it's kind of I don't want to put people in boxes and like generalize them based on their roles or anything. But at the same time, I think there are certain prevailing mindsets in different groups within these organizations quite often. And I think if you don't have the leadership skills to speak across those lines, you run out of road pretty quickly.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it more than 65 different startups you've worked with? Have I got that right? Is it a lot?
Yep.
It sounds like a lot.
It is. It is. Some of them are from the same industry. I work a lot with health tech, so that's why sometimes, you know, they have some key concepts that intersect, let's say, but no, all of them, especially, you know, because I do a lot of gamification as well, and gamification gives, like, you know, very very big character, let's see, to the app, or to the game, if it's like game like app. So that's why I remember them very well.
No, fair enough. And I can see gamification. I mean, that's quite a big thing in health and like fitness now, isn't it? Particularly when there's an app behind it. And it makes sense. I don't know what the data is on how it actually works for like health outcomes or improving people's fitness, but I don't know. I assume it works or people wouldn't do it.
Yeah, the gamification itself, it doesn't improve any stats of your body or your health. It's more about you know, it keeps you motivated more. It keeps you more consistent. It keeps you going through some thing that you don't want to do, but you know that you need to, especially, like, you know, I see a lot in like rehabilitation. So when you're just, you know, you're doing something that is hard to do, that you don't like doing, and you need just this extra any extra help, any extra support, any way to do this process more enjoyable, that's, like, you know, a very, very big value. And like every extra minute you are doing that you have to do, and you keep doing it, and every day that you are doing it in a row, so that's, like, you know, very, very important. But it's not like, you know, so just because you're you're playing the game, you're not becoming, like, you know, healthier or stronger.
No, but indirectly that is the effect though, isn't it? If it means people stick with it and they use it more consistently. So, you know, I think it does have, we could say it does have that effect. Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. One of the startups I worked with, they released the data recently that they see like 82% of people coming more to the practice, and they prefer our, like, you know, gamified solution to the like pen and paper tests that they were using before. So that's, like, you know, quite a big number. So they keep using it instead of coming to the old school methods.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's pretty compelling data, isn't it? You can't argue with that. So, I mean, across all of those 65 odd startups, I mean, what a rough guess, like what are the percentages would you say that really make it, they succeed, they scale up, and it, you know, and it goes well?
That depends on what we name well. So I think that, you know, in startup world, surviving is like good enough.
Yeah, no, I'd agree
So,
with that. Yeah.
So we don't have like unicorns yet. So I don't So none of the startups I worked with passed the 1 billion evaluation, but some of them were acquired very successfully. Some of them have hundreds of thousands of users. I think that about more than half of them survived. Some of them still there, but probably they are not doing that well. I think that about 10% or so, like 6-7 startups, they were closed, unfortunately, so they didn't make it. Yeah, so that's startup world is hard to
Yeah.
live in, but it's also it depends on, you can pivot, you can try more, so that's always a good idea to try, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the data says for Europe or France or anywhere, but I mean, certainly in the UK and the US, they're pretty similar. I think it's less than half will survive more than 5 years. I think more than a year, it's like 30% or something won't make it that long. So I mean, those are pretty tall odds to beat, aren't they? And it is. Yeah, I've not looked at the data for the last year or two, but I feel like that's getting more difficult in the current climate. So, yeah, it sounds like your clients are doing
It's
well.
more
Let's put it
hard.
that way.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So, I mean, from all of these companies that you've worked with, what would you say are like your key, biggest like business lessons?
It's collect data. All the data you can collect, do it. Start it from day one. Implement all the logs. Do versioning. Prepare. So not overcomplicate it, but prepare to the different ways to go. So you need to have this data from the day one. You cannot if you don't need it at the moment, don't use it, but keep it, because you will need it in the future. That's for sure. Another thing is, as I already mentioned, think about the user acquisition. Where do you um, where do you plan to get new users, and what is your user acquisition strategy? I think that's like two more important, the most important things I see working with the startups. From the other perspective is all is uh, i- all you can do on the way. So you can try, you can see what's working, what is not working. Also, probably marketing, it's part of the user acquisition, but maybe a bit on the separate part. So I would recommend all the founders to work on their personal brands, because from especially what I see now in the marketing, and especially with the AI and all other things that are penetrating the social media, so the true, a genuine personal opinions and personal voice is very important, and that's a very good support for the brand itself, and for the startup, because investors are also people who are looking for the good people to work with, who they can trust their money. And so that's 3 main advice.
Yeah. So, I mean, that question about personal brand, it's one. It doesn't bother me anymore, because for me it's easy, because I'm a solopreneur. So the personal brand and the business brand are basically the same. Somebody will probably give me a slap on the wrist for saying that, but realistically, that's the truth. It was something I used to struggle with from the leadership point of view, without talking out of turn about people I've worked for in the past. But I feel like there's a line where if you cross it in terms of like promoting your personal brand and yourself over the top of your organization, what you're doing from a leadership perspective is saying, I'm better and I'm more important than the people who are actually doing the work. And I think there is a balance there to be had, because there's no, I'm not saying people shouldn't have a personal brand and they shouldn't put themselves out there and talk about themselves as a route to getting attention for their business, because obviously that works and it's an important thing to do. But I think there's there's a nuance in the way that you do it, if that makes sense. And you can usually spot a good and bad leader based on the way they do it. The bad ones will be, I did this, I did that. And the good ones will be, in my career, I've worked with, yes, I've achieved this, but I couldn't have done it without that sort of narrative. I don't know. I'm biased because I always look at it in terms of the leader and the team and that interaction. But yeah, it's something that I've struggled with a bit in the past.
But basically, the more people in your team want to do their personal brand, the better, because that's another thing that's important in the brand awareness. So usually founders are the only ones who are unwillingly sometimes, but they are promoting their personal brands. But if there are more people in the organization who do some who post some information, who highlight their part of the work in this company, the better. So I mean that, and when I'm saying that founders should promote their personal brands, it's not necessarily promote that I am so cool and all the rest is not important. No, of course, but founder is the face of the organization, and people anyway, they are more interested in people than in companies, so they are more interested to see the faces, to hear the real stories, some personal details, what was the motivation behind all the why founder founded this company, why they're care about what they're doing and other things. So that's an important thing. Obviously not a narcissistic self promotion or something.
No, and I wasn't for a minute suggesting that that's what you were saying. I'm just saying I've seen that done.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think you're right. So that point about willingness, I think, is key. And I think that speaks to the culture of your organization and your approach to leadership as well. If the culture of your organization is that people have to be persuaded, cajoled, forced into promoting their personal brand as a way of talking about the business, that's a huge red flag. And then the opposite, if they're jumping at it and I really want to get out there, I want everyone to know this is where I'm working, this is what we're doing because it's really exciting and I believe in it, that's a big green flag, isn't it, about your culture and the leadership of the organization. So again, it's you can spot for good or ill, can't you?
True, that's true.
Let's go back to the point about products and building something that's a bit more human-centered in terms of its design. Is there any other advice or suggestions you would offer to perhaps a startup founder in the audience or someone who's got an idea for a company about how can you build something that people truly love and want to buy? Asking
yourself a question, how do you want users to feel when they are using your product? Because there are people can do things based on different emotions, and I mean they're the same as the different coaching approach exists in wellness. So some people, they are doing better with somebody very nice and very supportive, yes you can do it, another push up, well done. Others prefer the most strict, hey you fat ass, do something, so that's and it's work. Those approaches are very different and people feel very different, but there are people who prefer each of those approach. Some are some more a scientific approach. So let me explain how it works, where your muscles connect and other things. Other guys prefer incorporate more games in the experience. So that's a very, very different emotions, a very different experiences that could be built inside the solution that does, for example, the same thing. And the same with gamification and human-centered design. Whatever your product does, it should not necessarily be in health care or anything, but you still have this general, very, very high level idea of how do you want your customers to feel when they're interacting with your product or even service. Because even if you're, I don't know, hairdresser, but you want to have this image in your head. So who are you? Are you a friend? Are you an expert? Are you a coach? Are you I don't know. So that's the main idea. So when you're wrapping your head around this, so based on this foundation, you're building the next steps, and you're checking so when you think, okay, so what do we show on the home screen of our app? And you're thinking, because again, for the different users, for somebody who are achiever, it's like their stats, their I don't know, achievements during this. For people who prefer like some social influence and others, so your friends who use the same, or how many likes did you have for your post or something. So that's and based on this understanding, you are just building the whole experience of using your product.
Yeah, I like that because I see a parallel to leadership again. Different people need different things. They interact with things like the workplace, for example, in different ways. And so that ability to see people as the individuals they are, then take the time to understand what each of them is looking for and how they best work or how they best interact with your app or what they're looking for from your service is really powerful if you can master it, for leadership, for business, for development as well, let's say. And I think not enough people recognize that.
That's true, because you're having so motivation is everywhere. So anything we do in life, that's because we are motivated, because we want to do it. I mean that even if we think that we hate doing it, we still want to do it because we are motivated by some maybe not pleasant force, but still we want to do it. And that's why, and of course the motivation of your team is one of the biggest challenges, I think, for the leader, because people are different. They have different strengths, they have different weaknesses, and they have different things that motivate them. And leader himself or herself, they also have their own thing that motivate them, and they make them roll. Usually, leaders, they're probably having more volumes of energy, but still, to distribute it somehow evenly and balance between remembering to motivate your team, but also putting the energy to grow, to move forward. And so that's I think the biggest challenge, that sometimes you're going either one side or another, and you need to keep it's like 2 feet, one moves forward, and you cannot put all the weight only on one.
Yeah, and it can get frustrating for people in those positions as well, because if there's that disconnect between the way they are and their natural level of enthusiasm or optimism, say, and that's not quite being reflected back at them. And I've seen people get frustrated and not know how to deal with that. And I think it does, like we're saying, it comes back to just taking the time to understand those individuals, doesn't it? And I mean, really understand it. Not just ask them a question and don't listen to the answer, but understand what they're saying, what they're looking for, and what that actually means for your own behavior as a leader as well. And yeah, just learn a bit of patience sometimes. People are different, and that's okay. It shouldn't be a source of frustration.
True.
Yeah. So, I mean, on this subject of leadership then, I mean, if we haven't already covered it, what would be your biggest leadership lesson that you've learned from your career so far?
The biggest leadership, that right team is a key to successful business. So you need to pick people careful. So you need to pick people carefully, and then you need to take care of them to keep them motivated, to keep them working as a team, and also I think that's the biggest challenge, and the biggest I think goal for the leader is to blend those results that you need to achieve with the people goals, because there is like business goals, and each person in the team individual goals, they should align with those goals. And so you need to build the company, build the team that actually understands that. And like on every performance review, so like, you have like the company direction, you have each department direction, and each personal goals, and like KPIs, if you can set them up, so they should support each other rather than like being chaotic. So that's, I think, the most important thing as a leader you can do.
Yeah, I like that. That alignment is a great word, isn't it? It's easy, isn't it? And again, a lot of managers, a lot of leaders fall into this trap of viewing all these different streams, if you like, as different and isolated and separate, even like opposing forces sometimes. But actually, like, if you really want to succeed, you're right. Like, you can have the greatest business objectives in the world, the greatest goal if there is, but if you've got a demotivated team that you're not supporting and they're leaving and you're losing people every week, doesn't matter how great your goal is, you're never going to get there. So you've got to be able to do both at the same time, and plus all these other things that business owners have to worry about on top as well, and do all of it in alignment and all working towards the same goals. And I don't know about a pyramid, but the supporting pillars, if you like, of a building, they all need to be like level, don't they? Otherwise something falls over. That's not a great analogy, but it's the best I can do right now.
Yeah, but that's right. That's how I imagine it too.
Good. Yeah. This question might be difficult for you. I don't know. Some people struggle with this one, but we'll see how you get on. What's been the best memory you have of being led?
I think that my nicest memory is when I felt that my manager, she was not only trying to get my work results, but she also were interested in developing myself as a professional, but not very connected to the work task, more in the broader sense, let's say. So in this company, I was working as a delivery manager, and my direct manager, she was the director of the company, and she was recommended me some movies. She gave me some books, and actually she gave me my first book that after reading it, I was so fascinated about behavioral design. And so since then, that was I don't know, more than 15 years ago, and since then it became my interest. It was I even remember the cover of this book. It was Robert Cialdini Influence book, and that was about how people make decisions, and what factors influence those decisions. So that's again, the very, very basics of the behavioral psychology. And so she was she was putting her effort into making me more more developed. I wouldn't say that it was a person on the personal level, because it was still more or less connected to the negotiation, to other things, but it was much broader, and she looked from the much higher level picture on me, in my state at this moment, what strength I had. And so probably then let's leave it there, and what areas. So probably I was too technical at the moment, and so what areas would be good to improve. So that's, and I still remember it was a very, I remember this manager with a very the gratitude, and so that's a happiest happiest memory of being led.
And it's quite a telling example as well, isn't it? I think the ones who stick in our memories are the ones who are interested in more than just the work being done, in whatever form that takes. I mean, helping you with personal development is a great one. And again, it's something that's too easily overlooked by a lot of leaders. But for me, I mean, that's got to be in your top 3 priorities in any leadership role is what are you doing to develop and support your people? What opportunities are you giving them, offering them, etc.? And I think this conversation always reminds me to that old cliche, and I can't remember where it came from. I keep meaning to look this up. I think it might have been from like a comic or something like Dilbert, something like that. But it's that conversation between 2 senior executives about what if I train everyone up and then they leave? And then the other one says, yeah, but what if you don't and they stay? And it's that sort of long-term versus short-term, isn't it, view? And actually, in the long term, it's way better to have more skilled people. Even if you risk them leaving, they'll remember what you did for them. They'll speak kindly about you to other people in the industry, depending on how big your industry is, depends on how much you're worried about that. But also there's that chance they might come back one day because they'll remember what a great place it was to work. And they'll go and get some more skills somewhere else and bring those back to your organization. Whereas if you take the short-term view, you're probably going to annoy them a little bit. They won't work as hard. They won't have as many skills as they might. And eventually they're probably going to get fed up of working for you and leave and not come back. So it's not even a balancing act, is it? It's a pretty binary choice, I think.
True.
Lovely. Well, that was a great answer to that question. Thank you. And I've only got a couple of questions left for you. I think they're both difficult. You'll have to tell me what you think.
Okay.
The first one is the time travel question. If you could go back in time and start your career or your business over again, what would you do differently?
That's an interesting question. I mean, you never know, and the history doesn't know this. What if? But what I would probably do, I would probably work a little bit more in the different companies before starting my own, because I started my first business 12 years ago or 13 years ago. So that was I was pretty young, didn't have all the experience, and some of the experience, it came hard way based on mistakes. And so I think that working in maybe not corporate, but maybe working with some more experienced people before in the team, that would help me to grow faster and not do all the mistakes that I did. Also, I would work differently probably with the team. So because motivating people is one thing, and keep the good ones and keep the good ones motivated is one thing. But I have another problem, so that I am parting with people very hard too. So if somebody is in the team for a long time and they are not performing well enough, and I'm still I am keeping them. I am hoping that they're probably change. They will improve, but usually it's not. And also in one of the trainings I passed, it was like this rule. So if you go through all your team and you ask your questions, if I knew everything I know about them and about their work that I know now, would I hire them back then? And if the answer is no, so then it means that you probably should find somebody else for this position. So that's another advice, not to keep people that you are not happy working with for too long. And also focus on recurring revenue. That would be my advice, because I also learned it the hard way, that sometimes, the $100 every month is better than $1,000 here and there. And that's very important. So the recurrent revenue is your business. Everything else is not. So that's very important. And that's why actually I think that everybody is doing subscription based, because people come and people go, and you it's hard to predict, but the recurring thing, it's something that you can count on. Obviously, your customers can cancel the subscription, but it's anyway, it's a better business model, and that also would I would recommend it to myself earlier on.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from on particularly that last one. I do feel like, again, referencing back to our conversation about user experience and whether what the actual users and people who are buying this are looking for. And you've got to think, surely, part of that experience for them has to be, what does it cost me and how frequently do I have to pay for it? Because as a user of these services myself, I'd much rather just pay for it once and then never have to worry about it again. And I do think that's being lost and forced on people a little bit. But then I understand the business reasons why as well. So it's, I don't know. And yeah, not sticking with people just because they've worked for you for a long time. I think that whole conversation around the toxic high performers comes up quite a lot. And I think I've not hired any, but I've had to work with a couple over the years who the bosses were steadfastly refusing to get rid of, even though they knew the negative impacts they were having on the team and the organization. And it's that conversation around, I know he's upsetting a few people, but he's got the highest sales numbers in the company, so I'm not going to do anything about it. And I think there is that, again, there's that line, isn't there, where at what point does behavior or impact on the team overbalance their sales numbers, for example?
No. This is this never been an issue for me. I mean that for me, toxic people are never tolerated. So whatever their work results, whatever their performance, so that is something that negative impact on the team. So I always in all my team, I worked with, we have very, it's not we are the best friends or family, but we're having this atmosphere of trust, of support. So there is no judgment, no point fingers pointing or blaming. So obviously we are if somebody did some mistake, we look at it, we are just understanding how it could happen, how we can avoid it in the future. But if there is some problem, we are fixing it all together. So I never had this issue. So if somebody is toxic, whatever they perform, and if they're impacting other people, so they just they go, so they don't stay in the company. So I have more problems with nice, who are if people are nice but they're not performing. So then that is much harder for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's an easier one to solve, though, because the answer doesn't automatically mean you've got to have that horrible conversation where they're leaving. You could maybe is there something else they could be better at without having to leave? Could we move them, a sideways move rather than outward? And that's a lot easier to deal with when it's someone that you get on with and you can work well together, and it's just the results that are the question. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think being a business founder, it's a lot easier to have all of these conversations, isn't it? Because ultimately you can make that decision yourself, which in a lot of workplaces, a lot of people don't have that luxury. So we are lucky, aren't we?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I really love that idea, though, of knowing what you know now, would you have hired them? That's such a great way of looking at it. And it takes the emotion out of it as well. And I think that probably makes the decision a lot easier in a lot of cases. I'm going to remember this one. That's a good piece of advice. Thank you.
I think that emotion is important key. So actually, that's another thing about the motivation and behavioral science, that most of our decisions are taken by emotion. So, and then we are rationalizing it. So our first reaction, we already know what we decide, but then we are trying to our conscious brain is trying to explain why, and we are dragging all the arguments to make it happen. So actually it would be my advice would be the opposite. So just trust your guts and have this because it this intuition, it incorporates all the rational and some subconscious knowledge about the experience. It is not only about people, but when you are taking the decisions, so your guts, they are usually telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I guess in these situations, I find there's often competing emotions, though. So, I'm frustrated with the lack of performance, but on a personal level, we really get on, and I really like that person. Or vice versa, their performance is amazing, and I'm really happy with what they're doing for the business. However, everyone hates them, and there are competing emotions in these situations quite often, I find.
Probably, but then some needs to win.
But how do you a lot of business owners, I think, have that sort of paralysis when it comes to those situations and in terms of making a decision and doing something about it. What that usually means, in my experience anyway, is they won't do the right thing with the toxic individual, because no decision is a decision at that point, isn't it?
No decision is a decision in any point, so doing nothing is also a decision. For sure. I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Let's move on to a more positive subject. I feel like I've hijacked that conversation to talk about people I didn't like working with. So last question. This is my favorite one as well, usually. It's called Leadership Heroes.
Leadership Heroes.
So if you had to pick one person, but it could be literally anyone you could think of, so they could be past or present, dead or alive, real or fictitious if you want as well, but someone who, in your opinion, would perfectly embody leadership, who would that be for you and why?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think that there is no such thing as a perfect leader. There are different types. Different times require different types of leaders, and the most fascinating leaders for me are the leaders that go through the very hard times, that who are taking unpopular decisions, because it's easy to be nice and and polite and everything when everything is good, but if things go tough and you need to survive, so either your business or your country, or so you need to take decisions that are probably will not be liked by everybody, but you need to take them for the greater goal. So, and because of that, I think that Winston Churchill probably would be my leaders that I really admire, because of the bravery, because of the consistency, because of taking the decisions that probably not a lot of people would be able to do. And also I'm being Ukrainian, so our president as well, especially in the beginning of the war in Ukraine, so his actions that were true leader actions.
Yeah, I think I like Zelensky better than Churchill as a choice for this question, I have to say. Partly because we get Churchill
because you are British.
Well, I was going to say, you didn't just choose him because I'm British, right? No, but he does come up a lot, Churchill.
No.
But also, he's a bit more complex, I think, in terms of his morality and the history of it. But I do take your point about context. That's a very reasonable question, a caveat even to make. Because, in the context of World War II and that sort of 5-6 year period, he probably was if not the perfect leader, as close as we were ever going to get at that point in history. And history speaks for itself. Although I would note a lot of history about Churchill was written by Churchill. So there's that potential bias as well. Whereas I think Zelensky, like, because he's current and is what's happening now, it's, I don't know. I feel like we can, I was going to say we can trust what we know about him a bit better, but then we also live in the era of fake news, don't we? So I don't know if that's true either. I don't know. He's more interesting to me. Let's put it that way.
Because he's alive, and it's like,
and we can like
action.
see, in real time, like what his leadership is achieving, and what he's saying, what he's doing, and we can trust it because we're seeing it and hearing it with our own eyes and ears, as opposed to reading about someone from 70 years ago.
That's true. But but in the beginning of the war, so he was like perfect. So I mean, now when they're like almost 4 years we are in the war, so obviously it's more hard and you need to have like in addition to bravery and like dedication and like all those things, you need to manage a lot of other difficult things. So that's and you cannot do it alone, so you need to have a good team, and that's a question that not all Ukrainians are happy about, the like some of the current things, but the first year, I think that was like absolutely flawless, and everybody was admiring him so much. I admire him even like now, so I know that those opinions have divided now, but I think that he's doing such a hard job. And it's like, when you're trying to run the company for like 30 people, and it's so difficult. So you're failing all the time. But when you're running the country of like 38 million people and the war and like, and so I think that he's doing great, taking all
absolutely.
the...
Absolutely. When you've got like a literal superpower trying to personally end your life as well, like, it must be impossible. I can't even imagine how difficult that must be. And having to have like the stamina to keep doing it as well. I try to avoid politics as well, but some of the things he's had to deal with politically on the global stage, on top of all of this, from countries that frankly should be his greatest allies, it's some of it's been hard to watch for sure. You have to have empathy for the guy.
That's true.
Well, Tanya, thank you so much for being with us today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. We've gone down quite a few avenues I didn't expect, but it's been really interesting. So one final thing I will ask you, if anyone in the audience would like to know more about you, the work that you do, perhaps your company as well, if you'd like to share any links or websites or anything where people can learn more.
I think my LinkedIn is the best source of information. I'm pretty active there. I'm posting there regularly. I'm answering the comments, answering the messages. So I would invite everybody there. And I'm posting all the updates about my startups and my new discoveries there as well.
Lovely. Well, I will pop that link in the show notes down there somewhere so everyone can find it easily. Thank you again for being here, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me. Have a good day. Bye.
Tanya, thank you again for that conversation. Really enjoyed that. It's always nice to get more into the technology side and understand how these software companies think and how they build these tools that we all depend on in our everyday lives and businesses. So thank you for your insights there. And an excellent choice for Leadership Hero as well, very current. Listener or viewer, if you would like to learn more about Tanya and her company, Diversido, you will find links in the show notes. And as I say to you every week, I do encourage you, click on those links, learn more about the guest, reach out to them, have a conversation. And if you are listening or watching today because you're looking for leadership support, if you're struggling to get a grip on leadership, if you're a new manager, first-time founder, and things just aren't quite working the way that you hoped they would when it comes to your people and the results that they're achieving, then you are exactly who this podcast is for and who I'm building the Integrity Leaders community for. So come and join us today. The website is on the screen. It's in the show notes. It's leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. That website has a load of free resources on it for you. And once you've exhausted those, head back to that homepage, click on the green button, and come and join us at the Integrity Leaders community. Inside, you will find support, a community of other leaders, training courses, relatable leadership advice, guidance, thoughts, comments, and sometimes, not always, maybe 50-50, maybe a bit more, it's tied up in pop culture and sci-fi boxes as well, just to make it a little bit more palatable and relatable and fun. Let's be honest, we need fun. So whether you are feeling that imposter syndrome, whether you're going through a leadership burnout, or you're just trying to lead your team without turning into one of those corporate evil overlords, then just know you don't have to do it alone. Community is the word of the year this year, we've decided. So come and be part of ours today. Click that link in the show notes on the screen. And if you have any questions, drop me a message. You can find me on LinkedIn. Again, that link is in the show notes. If you do nothing else, please do drop me a message, reach out, connect, because I always love to talk to people about leadership and their experiences of it. Well, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for being with us. Tune in again next week when I'll be talking with my next guest, John Morris, about how he took a $10,000 business plan competition win and turned it into a $40 million revenue business over a period of 16 years, and what that taught him about leadership, business, entrepreneurship, and himself as well. So it's an interesting conversation. Hope you'll be with us. And until then, I hope your new year is off to a cracking start. And as always, remember, be a leader, not a boss.